Hey, great Monday night. Great Monday night. Happy February the 5th, everyone. This is Dr. Anissa Short with Conversations with Chosen Pen. Welcome to another episode. And as usual, we have another phenomenal guest to share with you a little information about herself and her book and all of that good stuff. But before we get to her, let me just share this. The month of February has arrived. And other than it being the official national holiday for my birthday, we have designated Chosen Pen has designated the month of February to be our theme for our podcast to be books you'll love to read. And so during this month, we will not only introduce you to some phenomenal titles, but the people behind the titles. We're going to make recommendations so that you would have one or more additional titles to add to your library if you so choose. So be sure to join us every week, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be right here, or even catch the replay. So if you're watching us, whether you watch us live or you watch the replay, please like and share. We want to grow our community in 2024. We want more in 2024. And we can only do that with our friends and supporters multiplying themselves. So if each one were to reach one or two, we will be much better for it. So guess what, everybody? Dr. Norma is here with me today. Are you excited to see her? Lovely as usual. Dr. Norma, say hello to all your friends.
Hello, hello, hello. It's so wonderful to be back with you again today. And as before we start, I'd like to thank all of you for your condolences, prayers, and gifts and flowers and food and all that during our time of the loss of my sister. It was most appreciated. And without you, my spirit probably would not have been lifted as high as it was. So I thank you, each of you, for that. But I'm back. I'm here today. I'm really, really excited. This is the month of love, as Miss Anissa has pointed out, and we're celebrating books that we love. We love all books. We love to feel pages turning. We love to read. And Anissa, unfortunately, has taken the month as her birthday month, but it is also my birthday month. So she cannot have the whole thing by herself. So we're celebrating, I suppose, the month of February. But I'm excited about the people we have with us this month. I hope that it will incite you to be to read more. However, we know if you're on this particular broadcast, it is because you are a reader and you're a writer. But inspire others to read, because we know that if you're a reader, you're a thinker. And if you are a thinker, you are someone who can carry the word, change the world, because of the thoughts and the words that you've learned through reading. So be a reader, change the world.
I love it. You're absolutely right, Dr. Norma. When you read, it takes you to other places. And not only do you go other places, you can actually share that experience with others. So today, as we said, this month, books you'll love to read. And this young lady who is our guest today came highly recommended. I mean, she is just all over the place. If you know anything about her, she has been featured. Her books have been featured on other platforms. Her works have been on other platforms, and she's had opportunity to have a conversation about the works that she's done. But there were two books in particular that drew my interest, the titles alone, and they have everything to do with dating and relationship. And this month is the month of love, and so Cupid is out there floating around, back his bow, and people are engaged in dating and relationships. If no other time during the year, they definitely want to do it in February. That's true. So our guest not only is not going to tell you a little bit about herself, but we're going to tap into enough about the book to draw your interest, because I do believe it's one of those titles. It's one of the books that you'll love to read. So Dr. Velma, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for saying yes to the invitation. Tell our audience a little bit about who is Dr. Velma Bagby.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dr. Anissa. And thank you so much for this beautiful woman who is in charge of this entire podcast. Thank you so much. And my condolences to you. I heard what you said. Definitely will remember you in my prayers, Dr. McLaughlin.
Thank you.
I am an award-winning author, best-selling author, but I'm also a late bloomer for those who may be the same as I was. I retired after working 38 years in state government as a deputy administrator, and had no idea that my author career would begin at that point. Just having conversations with my own adult daughters about men and what the scripture says about the process and how do you get there. And so I began with that. And it also, the books that we'll be talking about today was created from years of sitting side by side with my husband, pastor, and in pre-marriage counseling sessions and marriage counseling sessions when people rough patch, and looking at the same patterns happening over and over, mistakes. And then in pre-marriage counseling, being challenged with problems, we're looking at thinking to ourselves, the problem is you're trying to marry the wrong person. So all of those years and those conversations, I felt compelled to really kind of put something out there, because how we were taught back in the 70s, how we were prepared, just wasn't happening anymore. And we have a book that was given to us over 2,000 years old, but yet the blueprint is already out there in terms of what we need to know. When you think in terms of over 60 scriptures that tells you what a fool looks like, acts like, talks like, there must be a clue in terms of how we should act and how we should not act, who we should date and who we should not date, who we should not marry. So all of that came to a head with this series. I thought I was writing one novel, and the results of the interest in that one novel, readers said, we want more. So now it's a series. And so here I am with this third book, as you mentioned. And that third book was in response to my male readers who said, okay, your first two books, you wrote about the wrong men to date, using fish as your analogies. What about the wrong women? So that blue book, the third book, was in response to those male readers who said, tell us about the wrong women. And that's what the catch, She'll Tear Down the House, was. That's when it was born.
Oh.
That's how I got here.
Okay. It's getting juicy. Dr. Noma, can you feel it? I can feel it.
Okay, I really do. And it's absolutely amazing to be able to have this conversation built on scripture.
Yeah.
Because I've done some reading. I'm thinking about it now. It's been years ago that I did a plan to give to my women in our church to what the man should look like based on the scripture. And they would say, but it's impossible. But if you're a Christian, you're looking for a Christian. You're not supposed to be unequally yoked. So I'm excited about hearing what you're doing.
So this is what I want to say. Of course, I want just for those who might be just chiming in. So the book you mentioned is a novel. So
the very first one I thought was to be a novel. All of them are Christian contemporary fiction. So let me tell you how I got there. The first book concerning the conversations I had with my adult daughters is a Christian nonfiction book. Your Adam is asleep until God opens his eyes. That was the first one. Nonfiction, that's what I thought it was supposed to be. Because I'm also an ordained minister. So we're taught expound on the word. I'm also a women's ministry leader. All of that background, I thought that was where I was supposed to start. And with this particular project, I felt led in a different direction. I wanted to be able to weave those stories in a way that the person could see themselves in it, so that you're not preaching at someone, but you're teaching and weaving into that the truths of biblical principles so that people can grasp that. And so I questioned whether or not that was the route I should go, because nonfiction is really what a lot of the Christian community prefers. So when I read this statement once on a blog post, it says Jesus has over 50 parables that he's written. And what are parables? Allegories, fictional stories. Right. He wasn't trying to hit anybody over the head with, this is what you need to change. This is what you need to do. I said, okay, God, that's it. These will be Christian contemporary fiction novels. The stories will be weaved the way you weave your parables. And in the first two books, I did use fish, the catfish who loves garbage.
Wait. Okay, so for those who might be watching, you probably need to like and share again, because people are, there are so many reality TV shows on, Married at First Sight.
Yes.
Everybody's looking for love, and they're looking at the song saying all the wrong places. And we don't have a blueprint of any type. A lot of us don't. Well, I have my Adam woke up and all that good stuff, but this is not about me. Stay focused. So a lot of people are wanting companionship. They're wanting their right mate, but they don't have a blueprint by which to operate from. And I so appreciate your decision to use stories, because that's exactly what Christ did. That's the example. That's right. He oftentimes, and the people who understood the nugget in the story were able to move forward and see success. That's so that's the pattern for which you have chosen. So your first one was like a step 1, 2, 3, 4. If he's asleep, then he ain't ready. and this is what you need to know when you know he's fully awake. That's what I'm assuming the first book is all about, right? But this next one was like, let me tell you, sis, and you told us a story. So, and you use fish. There are so many fish in the sea, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
let's
all of
hear
them you
about
don't
the
want.
next fish.
Let's talk about the
Yeah.
fish. Yes. So
Okay, so
catfish.
okay, the
the
very
other
first
fish.
book, the black book, there were 5 fish. So we used analogies to describe
Oh,
it's
dear,
the
here we go.
father, Pastor Grayson, who watches his daughter, a millennial. She set a goal to be married by 30. You know, we do that too. We set goals. And when she passed that date, she was rushing through men, and he's watching her do this. So Pastor Grayson decides, God, show me what I need to do. I need to do some type of intervention. And God tells him, use what you know, and you're an expert at fishing. So he takes his daughter on a fishing trip, which they had not been on in a long time. She remembers going as a girl. And he comes up with these stories, these fish that represented the type of men she had been dating. So the catfish loves garbage. The catfish is the type of fish that sits at the bottom of the lake, and he sits there until food falls near him. He's looking for something that's smelly. He enjoys garbage. He's not going after anybody. So if you think in terms of a man who findeth the wife, he's not finding anything. Anything that falls in front of him, that's what he wants. And so basically what he represented was the type of men who love smelly bait. And that is the heart of a person who doesn't know who she is, unsure of herself, poor self-worth, that kind of smell, because it's your heart that a person reads about you. And so then we have the sturgeon. It's Reverend Stevie Sturgeon, by the way, who sent from place to place by his congregation, and yet everywhere he goes, he nibbles. The sturgeon will nibble off the bait of the hook. And the person fishing doesn't know they're sitting there for hours with nothing on their hook, because the sturgeon is sneaky and he's already nibbled off the bait. So that's the sturgeon, nibbles wherever he goes.
I've been there with those type of fish. Yeah.
And then there's the there's the salmon who fights getting caught. A person fishing for a salmon knows that they're in for a fight, because that fish will fly up out of the water trying to knock the hook out of his mouth, because he's not going to commit. Doesn't want to be caught, and makes it very clear he's not interested. So for a woman to pursue a man like that, he makes it very clear he's not interested in commitment. And then you have the fourth one, which is what I love about this one. It's the puffer fish. The puffer fish is described as a fish with human-like eyes, but yet handsome looking, but yet agitate him. He puffs up 3 times his size with poisonous points coming out of his body. So who wants that? So on the outside, and that's what we talk about in the books, conditions versus characteristics. Conditions are those things we see on the outside of the person. Never taking the time to examine what really is true about this person's character, what's in his heart, who they really are, but we fall for the outside. And so that's the essence of the fish. The only fish that was a contender was the goldfish. And the goldfish, when he took her on their last day on their fishing trip, he pointed out some fish in the river and said, "What type of fish?" He said, "Well, Dad, they look like goldfish, but they're too big." He said, "No, they are goldfish. A goldfish will grow as large as the container you allow them in."
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's also an example in the story of how this woman had discounted the goldfish because of what he did, the type of work he did, the type of things that she saw about him that she judged him for. And yet he was the perfect catch for her, standing there the whole time, had been around her all her life. Now, book 2 continues with the fish, because the women who were reading my book said, "Look, we need more fish stories, because I met all those fish." And now I'm in the dating field, and now I'm looking at the dude going, "Now, which one are you, the catfish or you?" So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But when the men approached me asking to write their book, I talked to my husband to get his opinion. I talked to a few of my male relatives and friends. Tell me what were some of your dating challenges, so I can incorporate that in the book and really speak to those kind of issues. And that's how we came up with the stories in the catch, based on Proverbs 14:1. A wise woman builds a house, but a foolish one tears her down. So this book is about those foolish women who tears down the house. And that's because they're They're good at presenting themselves like they're a perfect catch, but they reveal who they really are after the men marry them. So again, going by what you see on the outside, which is what I found out over time, that was always the male's problem. Women used to be better at examining the heart, but now they've fallen into the same pattern of just falling for what they see on the outside. And conditions change over time. I, I don't look like I looked when I walked down the aisle at 20. My husband had the big afro. Elvis has left the building, so he does not look like he looked either. So if we were to go by conditions, muscular and all of that, that leaves at some point, and we get to celebrate 50 years of marriage this month. So what I'm
Wonderful.
saying is stop focusing on the things that don't matter, because conditions can flip and change. I've watched people walk away from a relationship because the condition changed. The man's physical condition, he got sick, and the wife says she didn't sign up for that. So those kind of things don't matter. You have to hold on to, and what helps you to get into a marriage that will last a lifetime is those characteristics, those things that you need to fall in love with, not what you see.
Gotcha.
So in the new book, my characters are the Black Widow, who gets what she wants and then kills her mate. There's the Queen Bee. And you know anything about a queen bee? She does nothing, a bunch of worker bees that she sits and has babies. She doesn't do anything else. She has the worker bees helping her with that. And then I have some characters I refer to as the narc women, narcissistic women. We talk about narcissism in men, but we forget that there are women who have that same issue.
Jezebel spirit, yeah.
Yeah. And so we have the narc women are the firefly. We have the vampire bat. We have the people pleaser, who people assume is just a sweet, nice person, but she's using it to manipulate whoever she can cause, whoever she provides that niceness to. And so then we have the hyena. The hyena, people say that they're laughing and they enjoy the sound, but they're not laughing. The female is leading the clan and she's barking orders. So she's barking orders all the time. And then there's the church doll, and you'll just have to read the story on that one, because I'm not going to spill
Oh my goodness.
I'm ordering now.
So Dr. Velma Bagby.com is where you can not only connect with Dr. Velma, but you also can purchase her books. Dr. Norma.
Yes.
I know you have a question.
I'm just taking notes, trying to figure out where it's going to fit.
I was wondering what you were doing.
She's taking notes. I knew she was writing.
Yes, I have all these notes, trying to figure out how we're going to make all this fit and come together for a wider audience.
Listen, my question was going to be, if you were to have asked one and it wasn't this one, my question was like, when is your retreat? Because we need to get you in.
That's how we're going to pull this together, a collaborative effort to pull this together.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed about you, my dear doctor. Am I saying your name correct?
Yes, you are. Believe it, you're one of the
that's one of the things I've noticed about you, that you have a lot of projects and those kinds of themed events happening all the time. So that's definitely something we can talk about, because that is my goal next, to work on that next. I just want you to know that here's some surprises that I've had. Every interviewer that I've spoken with after the very first book, they were so mesmerized by the stories and said, look, you have got to tell this story some more and get this out there, because I met all these guys. And then what shocked me was when the local senior center, I got word that there's a woman who introduced it to those seniors at the local senior center, because those women were walking down memory lane in all those characters, knowing that they had once met those people, those characters. Yeah. And then I had a receptionist at my doctor's office who I had given the book to. She told me about a person in a toxic relationship that she and the friends could not talk her out of it. And I said, give her the book, make her read chapter 6. She came back to me later when I went back to my appointment. She said she read that chapter and she got out. I said, now if that can do that, then I feel like my mission has been accomplished, because the stories are non-threatening, but they do tell a story. The principles.
Well, that's just like I tell everybody, your story is there for a reason. God gives them to you for a reason. There's always someone, as I say, desperately waiting for those stories. And so obviously you found the people, or God has pointed you to the people whose those stories are waiting. And that's absolutely amazing. And so much truth to the statement that those people are waiting for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got some comments in the chat, and it's funny. The comments are from men. Okay. So one male gives you a resounding amen with praying hands. Okay. And then he also says women will be more successful with live bait rather than artificial fake bait. They just simply need to be themselves. That's what he says.
Mhm.
One other says great conversation. Another gentleman says wow. And then there's the statement question that says, I can't wait for the movie.
I had somebody else said this sounds like a stage play when I talked about the very first book, but I love the fact that book two, because book one was focused on the character's daughter, Pastor Grayson's daughter. Book two, so many women heard about what she had done because he convinced her after that fishing trip to go back and focus on herself, and that's the whole premise of all the books. Stop worrying about what that person should be and look like. Because even if you create a list, can you meet the things on the list? If you create a list for him, can you meet all of those conditions yourself?
Wow.
So focus on making sure that you are prepared. You have to embrace who God says you are. You need to know that, embrace it, be sure about that. You need to know what the weapons of your warfare are in a marriage, because you can't help your marriage survive if you don't know how to pray it through. You don't know how to pray things through, all of that. And then trusting the God in him, just like he should trust God in you, so that you're not trying to tell them what to do, but you're praying that God will show them, that God will lead them. So book one is the daughter. It's focused on her. Book two, so many people ask Pastor Grayson, can you teach us? So he hosts a women's conference. That's what book two is about. And he has females to come in, women to come in and tell their story about their failure in using the wrong choices to choose their mates and what it got them into trouble, how it got them into trouble. Book three, of course, that's the book for the men. Grayson hosts a men's conference, and it's men coming in to tell their stories about how they got into a situation and why. All throughout, there are tips and tools how to identify a red flag and why we ignore them. Red stands for retreat, extremely dangerous. If the moment you see a red flag, you should not be ignoring it, but you should pay attention. So learning how to get rid of high school dating practices and come back with strategies that we've been given and really scrutinize. If I'm going into business with you, I'm going to make sure I conduct my research on your business to make sure that what you claim your business can do for me in this partnership will do that, to make sure your reputation is what you say it is. All of that, we do all of that work. Yet when it comes to discovering a mate for ourselves, we don't examine them at all. We don't try to determine who they are and really get to the root of who this person is. So we end up sometimes with the wrong people. And so in all of these cases, there are all kinds of tips and tools, asking the right questions. Why do we fall in love with a condition is something we see. And we see this in the story in this book with all of these women who are the wrong kind of women. The men should have never married. And yet, had they done their due diligence, they could have gotten to the truth of who these women really are, but they faked who they were and didn't reveal until they married them. And so that's what was important.
Wow.
And so I wanted to share. There's a lot of tips, a lot of questions you should be asking. And I found out in some of our pre-marriage counseling sessions, some of those questions, we would wait to ask a person during pre-marriage. No, I call them tough questions now. We now have to add those tough questions to your normal questions so that you can get to some of the substance of who this person is.
That's true. That is so, you know what? This is a first for me. I don't have a question.
Oh, Anissa, no question.
You have something to say, or you've done an excellent job of describing the book, so much so that I know that I need to add it to my arsenal. But I would have to agree with the comments that, to have this in a stage play or movie, just starting with a road trip of doing, sessions, conversations and things of that nature, because there is a lot of chatter, women who are wanting to be married. There's a lot of chatter about, couples who are married, but they just can't figure it out. And that's usually because the focus is not where it needs to be. And it sounds like your books can be beneficial for both.
Absolutely. That's how they're designed.
What is going through your mind, Dr. Norma?
Well, I truly believe in retreats, but I also see it as possibly a television show.
Oh my gosh.
That would be, each topic we could go from week to week as a way, but then definitely a post. The biggest part of that would then be the film. Basically, I could see that. I mean, I can see all of that.
I can see all of that. I can see all of it and then some.
Yeah. So either way, but to start to getting the word out is phenomenal. I mean, we do not even just simple webinars or summits, but something at a grander stage.
A retreat.
Where we could get it out to get
that
the word
sounds
out.
really good.
There's so many marriages out there today that are hurting. Matter of fact, we just started a marriage seminar at our church yesterday because when we looked at the statistics in our town alone, Fayetteville, North Carolina has the highest divorce rate in the country.
Oh, wow.
I think it's something at 60-some%.
Wow.
So we're doing that, but I mean, just to have, and we know it's because of military and a lot of the other, things that we have, issues that we probably have going on to enter into that rate, but there's still need for all of that. So there are a lot of stages that could actually.
Absolutely, I agree. For a marriage reset, in a sense, to reset it.
Yeah, that would be great. We do have one question. We have one question from our from an audience, because you talked about the book from the standpoint of helping the daughter find the right mate and things to look for. But one question is, how has your writing process helped other married couples grapple with married life? Have you gotten feedback from the couples that are currently married and they use your books as tools to make things better?
Well, let me just share something that happened recently. One of my dear friends, and she's a profound host. She has her own podcast. She has books out, both her husband and her sons. And she read a advanced reader copy, and she saw the reference microwave woman, because that's in there. Some of the feedback I got from the men is included in the book as a survey. And one of the things was, can you talk about the microwave woman? And I said, have we gotten there? Is that where we are now? That women don't want to cook, don't know how to cook, and all they want to do is buy that frozen stuff and stick it in the microwave. That's the only way they know how to cook. And she reached out to me and she said, sometimes I'm not feeling well. Sometimes it's hard to get up because she's fighting a condition that flares up every now and then. She said, but I tell you one thing, I will never be that microwave woman. She's been getting up and cooking for her husband and making sure there's a hot meal on the table on a regular basis. I said, because my grandmother said, if you don't cook, Mabel on the other side of the fence will be happy to bring him a meal.
Once they get married and the woman doesn't know how to cook. All of a sudden, they're in a situation, they've been going out to eat, they've been doing all this up into that, and all of a sudden, there's no food, no cooked food, and the expression becomes, well, she has no idea how to cook. And I think that's down through the generations, because everyone is working now.
And that
you're not going to grandmama's house, you're not sitting at. So I think when we're doing counseling, there should be something there that we can also offer before you get married, cooking classes or something for the couple.
Absolutely. And the tools, because I worked as a deputy administrator. Like I said, I traveled an hour away from home, but I had tools available to me. I had my pressure cooker. I had my
crock pot.
My crock pot. All of them I could put on before I leave, or the night before. My meal is ready in the morning. All I have to do is add a few things when I get home. And I mentioned that I was on a Zoom call of a group of men who meet out here in California, pastors and men of the church. They meet on a regular basis every Friday. And on one Friday of the month, they include their wives. And so they had me on to talk about these books and my perspective. And one lady says, I'm so tired, I can't get in. I said, well, do you have a crock pot? Do you have a pressure cooker? Do you have, and I started rolling out, just started rolling off my tongue, because that's no excuse.
Right.
And just
it's not.
like Dr. Norma said, you could take a cooking class if you want to initiate that. One of the characters in the book thought she would fool the man that she was trying to marry, and she married him, but she was bringing home food from friends who cooked for her, but he had no idea, and she would set it up like she cooked it. She was picking up food from her favorite places and set it up in the kitchen like she cooked it, until he finally figured out, once she started having kids, that's your queen bee in the story, she couldn't keep up. And so she just stopped and started putting things in the microwave. So she became that microwave woman. She didn't know how to cook. She didn't know how to take care of kids, even though she agreed to have children. She didn't know how to do anything. So the house was crazy and a mess. And here the husband is working to provide for his family. And he had to come home and cook and clean in addition to all of that, and take care of his kids, because he married someone who didn't know how to do any of it. He fooled her. And when they argued about it, she says, well, I'm too tired. I can't do this. And I don't know how to do that. And he said, who's been doing all the cooking? He said, well, some of my friends. He said, well, I should have married your friend.
Oh, wow. 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 Well, I never understood that whole, I did, but I didn't. And I'm not what I call a spring chicken, but I am a chicken. And I knew how to cook because I was taught that learning to cook was a life skill, because you have to feed yourself. And you don't want to go out to eat all the time. So to learn to do things around the house was a life skill. You need to know those things to take care of yourself. And then if you're fortunate and find the right mate, then it's not like you're having to recreate the wheel. You're just doing what you've been doing all the time. Now you just do it for more than one person. So I think if we had books like the one that you made reference to, we could identify which type of fish or which type of woman I want to be, and then prepare to be the wife, because that's what the word of God says. It doesn't say that she becomes a wife after she gets married. She's already a wife. And that's the key. You get married, you become a bride, but you were a wife before you got married, right? So your books, I have got to get your books, and we have got to, I'm going to talk to my husband about a marriage.
I know there's a lot of people that are pretty negative about the fact about cooking. Why should I cook? It's not about that. We're talking about love. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a level of love that we want to express. And so that, let me be clear about that. You can have those life skills. We were taught all of these things, how to manage a checkbook, how to be financially stable, how to handle your money, how to cook, how to clean, all of that, how to take care of a kid. We had all of those life skills taught to us in high school in the 70s. We don't have that anymore. And so it's very difficult for new generations to understand this level of love, because that's what it is. They don't understand. It's not you being a servant and that you have to. No.
Right.
How do I love him? How does he love me? How do I express love to him? What are the things do I really want him to see or know from my love language, basically? And so that's really what it's about. And so many people get caught up with the fact, why should I? No. You haven't discovered what real love is yet. That's what real love is. Real love was, I will try to take whatever classes I need to take to make sure that he has something on the table. And what happens in the middle of all of that, all of a sudden he's starting to do it too. All of a sudden he might try to give me a break, or try to help me, or try to show me love and have something laid out for me when I come home.
That sounds good.
And so it really is about giving and loving the person God has given you. It really is not about any specific role, although we should know these things. But it's about expressing love. It really is.
That's good. That is so good. Yes, we're talking about dating and relationships today. We said this was books you'll love to read, but we've just managed to weave in a little mini relationship workshop retreat all at the same time. This is really good, Dr. Velma Bagby. Dr. Norma, what about anything?
Yes. Am I on yours? Because I'm not on my screen.
Yeah, can you see me? We can see you and hear you.
Okay. Well, then I will stay here because my screen has turned black. No, I'm just really excited. The first question is, how are we going to continue this conversation, and when, of course. Because I think there's a lot of interest, and we would be directing our duties if we do not continue to share in some shape, form, or fashion. So that would be an offline conversation, I'm sure. But just to say that the fact that what is being said and how it's being said is spiritually correct as far as I'm concerned, that it is coming
Oh gosh, we lost
Oh,
her. We
wow.
lost her. Hopefully she'll come back. It's something with her internet, I'm pretty sure.
Dr.
But that's what
Norma.
happens when you're on live. We just never know what to expect. So hopefully she'll be able to pop in. But I am so very serious, Dr. Velma. I'm not sure how it's going to be done. But one of the things my husband and I had talked about doing was hosting events to support marriages,
Ah,
not necessarily a retreat to do counseling with people, but to host
right,
events
right.
to support,
Conversation.
yeah, to have
Yes.
conversations so that we can become better as a couple, so
Hmm.
we can
That's
grow
beautiful.
and become stronger as a couple. And so your book, your book or books, I should say, would be probably a great place to start. So I don't know if we're going to do a book club or we talked
Hmm.
about doing some retreats, but this has been really good conversation. Let me see if we have any more anymore. Okay, so someone says, I love Dr. Velma. That's Jacqueline Cox. She loves you to
Hey,
pieces.
love her too.
Marcel Wallace, who's out of Atlanta, Georgia, said yes. He said amen to what you said about this being a life
Life
skill
skill. Yes.
and that prayer is necessary. Sonia Wallace says, what is the name and what is the title of that book? So give her the titles. There are actually 3 books, Sonia. So Dr. Velma, if you would give us the titles again.
The very first book is the black one behind me, The Catch No One Wants, because it talks about the daughter of Pastor Grayson who ignored the man that really was her, the one that God had for her. And she went with some of these other fish instead, the catfish, the sturgeon, the salmon, the puffer fish, and finally she discovered the goldfish at the end. Book 2, some of the women wanted to know more. They saw what Pastor Grayson had done with his daughter and said, can you teach us too how to really discover the man God has for us? So book 2 is that conference with the women, and he introduces 4 new fish that are referred to as trophy fish, or kind of your narcissistic men, and some of the women who share their stories of how they ended up with these men and got out of it. And then book 3, I wrote in response to the male readers who wanted me to write about the wrong women. So book 3 is that one. And we use different characters. Since I used the fish analogies in the other 2 books for the men, I wanted to use different characteristics for the women. And so that's book 3. The wrong, she'll tear down the house based on Proverbs 14:1. A wise woman builds, but a foolish one tears it down.
So these 3 books are a part of the Catch series, right? Is that
We are
correct?
now the Catch series. What I
Okay.
thought was one book, The Catch No One Wants, is now a series. I'm working on book 4, and the workbook. I had a workbook that I made available, but I pulled it because I want to include all 3 books in this workbook. All 4 books. The 4th book's coming out, and then all 4 books will be included in the workbook that's
Oh, that's
coming
going to
out
be
shortly.
awesome. Awesome. So
Mhm.
on the screen, you should see drvelmabagby.com. If you would just go to her website, all the information about her current books are there. And then as she adds more titles, I'm sure you'll be updating accordingly. Dr. Norma is back. We're so sorry you had issues, but
Yay!
you were right in the middle of the statement. I don't know if you have anything else you want to share or ask.
Well, I don't even know what all you heard that I had to say, but the main point of it was that we need to find a way that more of our people, especially our people in premarital counseling or premarital information, is given to them, not
Yeah,
just the general counseling. I know my husband does premarital with our people here at New Life Bible Church, and he's very adamant about them being prepared and ready to
absolutely.
be married, going all the way through the budgeting and all the other parts of marriage. Because as we said, it is a difficult task. It's not
Yeah.
an easy road that your expectations should not be at the point where you think you're just going to go in. And to learn the fact that with these schools, you are marrying for life and not
Yes, ma'am.
marrying for, if it doesn't work, I will divorce. So I think that's another key thing that we
Yep.
as older, I've been married for 52 years, that we need to be able to teach our young people as they
That's it.
grow in their marriages.
Right.
I just,
I would like to even add to that. I would go as far as to say is that as soon as we know that our sons and or daughters are ready to court or date, this book needs to be introduced because my father said to my sister and I, are you trying to be married at 16 or 17? I was like, no. He said, so what are you trying to date for? For what? Dating is for people who have the intention on getting married, but you don't even know what you're looking for. So I think a lot of times they get started early, 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. everybody has their own opinion about whether that's appropriate time to date or not, but they don't have any life skill. They have no concept of what marriage is. They don't even know what to look for. So some of what you're sharing, I'm pretty sure I would say at least all of it, if not most of it, needs to be introduced even before they get to that point. So when they do decide that they want to be married, some of this is just foundational training or information that we're sometimes oblivious of. We just get engaged. We just get involved in the process.
The idea of it. The idea of marriage. We have no idea.
Right.
I think what we need to do in this is start a mentoring program for this. We can have mentors or your marriage, well, it doesn't have to be a marriage mentor, but a mentor for young ladies in preparation to get married. So everybody would have someone to help train them, someone to go to, because we don't have those people now that we once had.
No, we don't. And I admire the fact that your church, your husband is doing this kind of work, because I don't see it a lot in churches anymore.
Yeah,
and I think that was what propelled, because I looked at the statistics about marriages and how it's been on the decline since the 60s. And it's just as bad in the church as it is outside the church.
So sometimes the statistics are higher in churches, right?
Yeah.
So
but we know that Satan has a way of really jumping in and just tearing down those things. And he knows if he gets the leadership in the churches torn down, there's no way you're going to sustain the remainder of the congregation.
That's the whole idea, is to take away the example.
Right.
We were given the blueprint. The believers were given the blueprint.
That's true.
We were given the tools. It's supposed to be the picture of Christ in the church, and we can't do that very well now.
No, not at all. We're failing big time. Well, Dr. Velma.
Yes, I know we have definitely gone past our little 30 minutes.
Dr. Norma will have you all night. I promise you. We will have, before this, if we don't stop now, we will have not only a mentoring program, but we'll have a retreat. There will be a series. We will be on a city-to-city tour. That's just how Dr. Nova operates. So we're going to stop here, because as good as this conversation has been and as impactful as the content of your books are, we can't talk all night. So first of all, want to reiterate what I said before, is thank you for saying yes to the invitation. I want to thank Queenie Clem for even recommending you.
Yes, and thank you, Queenie.
Queenie is a sweetheart, and she's on and she says hello. Yes, so I want to say thank you again for saying yes, and I'm excited about securing your books for myself and for those who may be watching. Don't forget to share this, because a lot of people are out there. I think this was said at the onset of our conversation. There are a lot of young men and young women, or middle-aged women and men who desire marriage, but they just really don't know
what to do,
which way to go. They don't know what to do, and so they've had a lot of conversations with people, and it's just not served them well. And this book could very well be a catalyst to change or to shift their paradigm and their thinking, which in turn will shift the results that they're getting. So thank you for being brave and courageous, and for following the inclination that was given to you of the necessity of this. I look forward to book number 4. When it comes out, we'll have to have you back and see how this series is going to roll over.
We'll have to have her back soon.
Yes, we did. And don't be surprised if Dr. Norma has me calling you to have another conversation about something.
I'm sure I didn't get your location. Where are you located?
I'm in California.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Are you going to have the weather out there now? Are you in the part?
I'm sorry?
Are you in the part with all the rains now?
Oh, yes. We had a few areas that lost everything went black for them, but we were not affected. Probably the worst thing we had to happen were the panels of our fence flying off. We could hear them hitting the ground last night. The wind was so strong.
Oh, wow.
But there's a lot of flooding in other areas, especially Southern California.
Okay. Well, so we're going to have East Coast meets West Coast some kind of way.
Well, a lot of my following is East Coast, so I understand.
Well, we'll treat you real good here on the East Coast for sure.
Oh, I know. I got some good family good family and friends on the East Coast.
Sounds like a plan. A plan. Well, thank you again, Dr. Velma Bagby.
Thank you.
Dr. Norma, any last comments before we close out?
I just offer, again, thanks for myself, but also for all the married couples out there. If there's never, ever any lack of information or that you do not have or you do not need to sustain your marriages. And even if they can always be better.
That's true.
So get the book and read that. Right. If you want to have conversations with me about them, we would have a wonderful time. We can sit down and have a book club kind of meeting and go through them.
Then go from there.
Whatever. I'm here for you.
I just want to say to both of you, thank you for having me. I had a joy. It was very fun. I want to mention that all the ebooks and all three ebooks are 99 cents right now. It goes off sale on the 17th of this month. So if you want to get those, I got quite a few that I ordered as a batch so that I can just email them out to people that I just want to bless with them. So they're 99 cents ebooks. And then
Okay.
you can get the bundle for $25 from Riches and Reading, the online bookstore, Riches and Reading. You can get the whole bundle, all three paperbacks for $25 if you want to
Oh,
take
that's
advantage
awesome.
of that.
Okay.
That's good. That's
Amazing.
really good.
Okay. All right. I'll probably get some for those for our church for the back. See if we can get some.
That sounds great. That
Thank
sounds
you
great.
both.
Well, thank you so much again for Dr. Velma. And thank you all for watching. Once again, we were here live, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. This month theme is books you'll love to read. And Dr. Velma has kicked it off like with a bang. So if you don't do anything, definitely get her books tonight. As she said, the 99-cent ebook special, and then the bookstore that she made reference to. Take advantage of her special. Share this podcast, watch the replay, share the replay. Whatever you do, we so appreciate not only your support, but being with us each and every week as we do our best to share everything that involves publishing, the literary world, and everything else that brings joy to your life and offers a better quality of life or enhancement to your life. So I am Dr. Anissa Short with Dr. Norma, Dr. Velma Bagby. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week when the conversation continues. Books you'll love to read. Have a great week, everybody.